those additions? Okay, unanimous. Okay, shall we, okay, let's do the adoption of the minutes. Do I hear a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, David. Second. Michael. All in favor? Unanimous.
Your hand down, Mr. Hawking. Flip pages.
Okay. Now, should we, no, there's no public for comments. Okay. Should we try and do the elections in the,
Yeah, great.
now? Okay. Schedule. Okay, so we have to elect a chair and a vice chair. Okay. Do I hear any nominations for chair?
True Rose? Yeah. Vice Chair.
Drew?
Second that.
Okay.
Okay, I move the nominations close.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous, okay. Vice, and, huh?
Has anybody talked to Drew? Is he willing
Yeah, we
to
just
yeah,
got
I
Daniel.
I had to talk him into it
Okay,
last year,
perfect.
so.
And I'll nominate Dennis Wilson as Vice Chair.
Second that.
And I move the nominations
Okay.
closed.
Okay, all in favor? Okay.
Oh, what a hard fought battle.
Okay, now, the dates, calendar.
So we are now doing the third Monday of the month at 7 o'clock. Is that amenable to people still moving forward?
That works with council, and I presume
I'll
also
do
we,
that. Yeah.
we do two
You
Mondays.
guys are on the second and the fourth, right?
How
Yeah.
does March break fall into that?
Well, the APC doesn't meet every single month,
Right.
and often if there's a break, we have been known to rejig, let's just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a school break off in March.
And the 18th. Is that correct?
So we can also, we often say except August or except December, because it would be quite close to Christmas, we could say except March. That makes people more comfortable. And we can also
I
add a
don't know.
clause saying or as needed, which is often what happens if there's something to blast through to council.
Okay, okay. So do I have a motion about the third Monday except for December, August, and you want to add March?
Sure.
Okay, well,
It is spring break, that, all the way is spring break too, actually.
and.
So we'll say except March, August, December, and meetings as needed.
Meeting as needed, yes.
Does that work, Daniel?
Yeah.
Okay, do I hear a motion? Can I
No.
No.
David, move, second? Michael, okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Great. All right.
Tick, tick, tick.
Tick, tick, tick. Okay, Daniel, are you gonna do veterans?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and Liz, lovely presentation. So this came before the APC in September as well. So at that point it was a referral, and now there's a bylaw that's moved in first reading. So this is for rezoning of Veterans Park. So it's located off of, this is Salau Road, and it's located off of that. It's a property the municipality acquired through a rezoning in 2003. It's part of, in the OCP, it's part of an OCP comprehensive development area designation for the Cowan Point development. That's what we do. And in the zoning, it's zoned rural residential 3. So it has the normal rural land uses, so dwelling, agriculture, horticulture, domestic agriculture, stable, and kennel. So council in, I believe this is April, directed staff to bring forward a rezoning. So and just some of the background on that, but so we, in 2016, I believe, we placed a temporary use permit on the site to allow the uses ongoing. So Public Works at some point from 2003 had started using a portion of the southern part as a auxiliary public works yard. And then in 2016, that's when the group came forward to looking to build Veterans Park for the logger sports show in the middle of the site. So at that point, actually not quite the middle because there's a creek that runs down here, but sort of in the center, I guess, more of the site. So we placed a temporary use permit on the site that allowed those two specific uses. So it allowed the public works yard and it allowed the outdoor assembly park use in the middle. So council then in April, when we said, well, actually at that point a delegation came forward looking to build a disc golf site, disc golf trail around the outside of the park. And so council was asking if that would fit within the temporary use permit. And we said, well, it would, but the temporary use permit expires in a year, so maybe you want to think about renewing the temporary use permit. And council at that point said, let's just rezone it. So it came to the APC in September for comment, and then we're coming back now with the bylaw. So bylaw 474 is the OCP amending bylaw. And what Emma found was that largely some of the stuff in the OCP designation fits within it, but we want to add public works yard as an acceptable use within the OCP designated uses. And then bylaw 473, this is the land use bylaw zone, or land use bylaw, so the zoning bylaw. And it would place essentially this whole portion in the park zone, in the P2 park, so it's a multi-use activity park is the designation we placed in it, so that allows things like open spaces, athletic park, outdoor assembly, playfields, playgrounds, other outdoor recreation facilities, nature protection.
Daniel,
Yeah.
would you not list the school in that list?
So what we, Emma talked to the school board, and so one of the things that they had wanted was to know that there was still school. So what we essentially said is the OCP allows the school use. The zoning doesn't, so if the school came and said we want to use it at school, we would still need to rezone. But we would leave it in the OCP designation, so it's still OCP designated, but we're not moving forward to rezone it to school unless the school comes forward.
Okay.
So it's still in the OCP designated as potential future school site. I mean, the school board essentially said, we don't know if we're ever going to want it or need it, but we would like it still designated just in case. And we said, okay, we will leave it designated as a school site, but in the meantime, we will zone it as park.
I was thinking there might be another kind of school that might go there as opposed to just a West Vancouver
Right.
school.
Yeah.
Some kind of special school or a variety of things. That
Yeah.
could lead to that kind of
I mean, I think for that to happen, like if it's not a public school, they would have to come forward and come to council and say, we want to use the land for a school. So like the IDLC by the golf course is the like the homeschooler school. So it was like or IPS, I guess.
Yeah.
So it was like a private school. They would have to come forward to say we want to use the land, and council would have to figure out, okay, is this
Yeah,
Is this an
unfortunately, that's
appropriate
sort of
use?
something like a 2 or more year work through council to.
Yeah,
Get
but I mean,
it.
I think as it was, it would be a sort of a more lengthy process in terms of saying, can you use the site, like we've designated the site for the public school system to expand, can we just, probably I would imagine even the school district would probably not want us to do that, and they would speak against it. If this was designated as like, if the West Van School District or the public schools needs to expand to this site, and then they would say, well, we'll give it to a private school.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah. And then so the remainder portion is placed in the industrial medium. So this is the same zoning as the other public works yard. So it allows a number of stuff: public works yard, transfer station, recycling depot, compost facility, and cottage industry.
Cottage industry. Now,
It's a pretty expansive definition. It's like in terms of doing something that involves skill.
oh, okay, so, okay,
Yeah. So
that's sort of wide open.
it is pretty wide open. Yeah.
Okay,
David,
Yeah, I looked over this stuff,
Yeah.
sent us an email, and personally, I think there's nothing wrong with this, and it's a good move for municipality, except for composting facility. I've been doing a lot of reading on that over the last 15 years, and working, as you know, I worked with Bird for 15 years. Most composting facilities, unless they're very, very expensive, have leachates and they pollute. There's no getting away from it. They either bring in rats or they drain waste material settling if it's not properly treated. And we're right against the riparian area. And I think the public work yard is fine, transfer station is relatively clean, and they pick up their own mess. Recycling is just storing and going. Cottage industry, yes, but compost facilities, I think that there should be a warning, either not allowed or a very, very definite indication that this is very questionable in this area. It's on the water that leads right into our lake, and compost facilities drain away a lot of rubbish.
So maybe upon approval of an environmental study or something.
Well, I think there could be better places for compost facility than close to. If you look at that map on the riparian area right beside it, it's relatively steep in there. It goes right down into our lake.
It's on page 9.
Yep, page 9 of 39. I think it's the wrong place myself. Now, if it's a proper modern treatment, and there's no leaching, there's no material piled on the ground to go bad or drain into the ground, perhaps. But generally speaking, I think there should be a warning about that.
So I'm just looking into compost facilities right now, actually. I just started yesterday, a couple of days ago actually, because our compost volumes have gone up so much that we're sort of getting to the threshold for some of the more advanced systems. So you would use just some sort of a windrow that can have all kinds of problems. Could use closed systems. Looking at some possible closed systems.
Well, I agree with that, David. If it is something like hot rot or some treatment facility that doesn't require storage of materials around it,
Yeah.
yes, but I think warning on this is important.
Yeah. I mean, I think the idea of a proper environmental assessment for any kind of a facility that you put there, because you're right by the waterway. I also think, in terms of composting, if we're going to have it, I'd rather have it right down by the, by the recycling center, where it's centrally located and easy to access and so on.
But there's not enough room on.
Well, there is for a closed system. So if I'm talking about a
Well,
closed system, that's what I.
Actually, yeah, because you're using an awful lot of gas,
Yeah.
driving all this stuff
It's a
up
long
the
way,
hill.
it's a long way to go to get there.
Yeah.
Even though it's just behind the houses, you have to try.
Miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's sort of a bit beside the point. That road could get opened up one day, and who knows. But I agree with David that we need to be careful.
Okay. Is there, how should we handle that? Do you have more to present, or?
No. I mean, this is OCP stuff,
Yeah,
talking about it, the parks plan, the multi-use fields.
we know that's all good.
Yeah. No, so I mean, I think I would say, if the commission supports it, say supports bylaw 473 and 474 with the following comments, and then, that you not support compost facility as a use.
You can make them very site-specific with geotechnical and civil engineering criteria.
Yeah, so it depends how you if you want to say we just don't want it, or we want it with certain conditions, we can easily put conditions of use on it. But if your bigger thing is you don't think it's an appropriate site regardless, then you would just say we don't want it there.
Well, I think the issue is if it's an enclosed system, it's not an issue up there, right? So it may be difficult hauling it all up there. That's a separate issue.
Yeah.
In terms of use, I think we probably ought to caution compost facility only compost facility that adjacent riparian areas or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Is that okay with you, David?
Well, I mean, my opinion is only one person. Actually, regardless of where the facility is, I don't think it has anything to do with where the recycling depot is now. The compostables are collected from all over the island, and I mean, it should be reasonably central, but this is probably as reasonably central as any place. But I would like, considering there's a lot of crown land around, even private land, I would like it to be in prefer it to be in some place that there's no danger of something getting a riparian. I mean, there's always accidents, there's always a change in government that says, oh, we can't afford the proper treatment, or it's down, and a whole mass of stuff gets dumped on the ground for 5 years until we raise another $50 million or whatever it's gonna cost. And I would prefer to be located in an area that doesn't have any drainage problems into a riparian area, myself. But proper opinions by engineers and what have you go a long way towards alleviating that concern, but it's still there.
The compost facility would likely not be a private endeavor, would it, or would it be a municipal?
Could be either way.
Either way.
Could be either way.
Actually, just as an offhand question, why do we have composting? I mean, I never put anything in I don't have a green box. I never put anything out. Anything I have that's organic, I dig into the ground or put it into my compost heap. I don't understand why we're gathering all this great green stuff that we need in our soil and taking it off the island, or even treating it. Why don't people look after their own compost?
So I've been to lots and lots of presentations on compost, and I know it has a long history here. There's no doubt that composting on your own land is the best. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons, not just the advantage to the amendment of your own soil, but you save on the trucking and the cost of that. But you know, people seem to want it, and I think is compost, was that already a permitted use in the IM zone beforehand, or has it been added?
No, so we're just copying it over.
Okay, and would somebody who wanted to start one, whether it was I guess if it's the muni, they wouldn't need a building permit, right? But,
We would still need a
Oh, yeah.
building permit.
They
and
would
this is
anyway,
still-
so
yeah, and
they
this-
would need a building
You
permit.
need a development permit too for this site because it's in the watershed. We need
Right.
like environmental.
So that would engage a lot of the safety measures that David's concerned about, wouldn't it, Dave?
Some of them, yeah.
Well, the other issue is this is owned by the municipality, right, all this land. So they would have, they could put any conditions they want if somebody came to them to put that kind of use there. They could say, no, we're not going to lease it to you or sell it to you unless you do X. So, I mean, the municipality can control that to a great extent. It's not like it's on private land.
And just to clarify, the IM zone, are there a whole bunch of other things that are under that, Daniel? Or
No,
that's it?
that's
right
it,
there?
yeah.
Okay, that's it.
So we'd be amending the zone though by taking compost facility out?
Yeah, I mean, how's NRC working this? Yeah, I mean, what we have throughout, a number of our zones, essentially variations. And we would say this is IMA, and then we would put something in and say zone variation A means you can't have compost facility.
Are there other areas on the island where the compost facility would be permitted? There must be.
I mean, really, it's like our public works yard. I'm trying to think if anyone else has it. I don't think anyone else does.
Do you really think we could put a composting facility down there where Bird is?
Or in the
Very
yard? Yeah,
Across the road.
yeah, could do.
Or both of those are
Louise-
so close.
Louise has been talking about it, David, one, a small, thing that looks like a small shipping container, basically. It's one that she's looked into, but I'm looking into some other places.
Which one is this?
It's a new one, and they're using in Calgary, and I don't remember the name of it, I'm sorry. But she's been looking into it, and,
They require water, basically, and
not
electricity?
just what, I guess it would be electricity, but
It'd be heat, then
it's
it's
heat,
just
it's
turning.
heat, and it's only for food scraps, and it treats them in 48 hours.
And do you not have any liquid residue?
There'll have to be some liquid residue of some sort, I don't know. I'm not sure.
So do we have a consensus of what we should try to do? How should we handle this? Do we want to put a limitation on it or a guide about environmental impact? Or do we want to just continue to allow it as in the other IAM district, since the municipality owns the land and can control it that way? And we just put a caution in there about ensuring that that any composting facility has no impact on.
Maybe a suggestion, I mean, a transfer station, there are a whole bunch of things in IM that could be nasty and messy.
That's
So
what I
a
was
transfer
thinking,
station
yeah.
could be a pretty messy, horrible place too.
It could be.
So it would seem to me that if we say it's fine to be IM with the but that's it doesn't need to even just say compost, it could just say with concerns around the riparian, and the land sloping towards an important riparian area, then some sort of caution around any kind of drainage issues.
I like that too, because the issue is not the way the zoning is defined, the issue is the existence of the riparian area right next to it. So
Yeah.
maybe that should be the force of our comment, is given that it's
Mhm.
adjacent to a
It's
riparian
actually-
area.
I
And
just
for
have,
all the uses.
Yeah, for other uses.
Yeah.
Seems like adding any language that's specific to the ultimate outcome limits our ability to influence what's built there. Yeah, so it's better to address the potential problems, right,
Yeah.
than to talk about potential solutions.
Yeah, I mean, if you said just compost, I mean, a transfer station could be a place where you just dump organics. I mean, there would be leachate, I mean, there could be horrible things. And, any of those could be done badly and cause problems. I shouldn't say any of those, but some of them certainly could. So, to make it broader than compost and talk about a riparian zone and the sensitivity, I think would be maybe a way to go.
So Steph, have you got something there?
I think, so you said the committee support the proposed bylaws and rezoning. The following comment that composting not be permitted, a permitted use unless there is no impact on adjacent sensitive riparian areas, particularly regarding drainage.
I think we were talking about all the permitted uses.
Yeah.
That
So not
many
just
of the permitted
compost.
uses,
That the permitted uses, you don't want to highlight that one?
No.
Okay, that the permitted uses,
immediately adjacent to a riparian area
Or-
must be closely monitored from an environmental and geophysical point of view.
So this is a CD zone, right?
Does that sound like
So
English?
it's very site-specific anyway.
Yeah.
sorry,
Well,
from
in the
environmental
CT,
and
it's a CD zone.
geophysical?
No, would you say environmental?
I just love those like geophysical. No?
Do you want that in?
Sure. put it up there.
I guess what you worry about is you could have a closed compost facility and then you have an earthquake. And it's suddenly no longer closed.
So did you say environmental, did you say perspective? What was the noun?
I
Environmental
think it was.
perspective? That the permitted
Yeah,
uses.
didn't that, yeah, the PGTAC said something similar, didn't it? Or was that just about the athletic field? the parts are. I don't think I fantasized it.
It's on this presentation, wary of environmentally sensitive areas, but now I'm trying to figure out where.
Internal referrals. Yeah, users should be wary of environmentally sensitive areas within parcel.
Oh, wow.
That's what,
Within parcel.
What page?
11 is.
page 11, that was what the PT gap said. The week. I
Maybe
would
adja-
add within and adjacent to the
Yeah,
parcel.
adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This makes it stronger, I mean, as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that work for people?
Are we adding?
Uses should be wary of adjacent environmentally sensitive areas.
I like that one better.
Hmm.
Say it again,
Briefer.
can you say it again?
Uses should be wary of adjacent environmentally sensitive areas. It's just, is wary strong enough?
I was wondering about
Yeah.
that. Where it sounds.
I like if you're monitoring.
Sensitive too?
Responsive to,
Where, yeah, users should not have a negative effect on environmentally
Yeah.
sensitive areas
should not have a
within
negative
and
effect.
adjacent to the parcel.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, wary is an odd word to use there, right?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's scared.
Yeah.
Whoa, there's a creek there.
No, it's good to spell it out, if it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
worried
it
about
doesn't really
negative impact.
direct any
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
If a recycling facility were to be located in that, or what area we took, in this area in here?
No, in the lower part,
Lower part, near
the
the
part of the
workshop.
public works yard right now.
It would have to be near the
It would have,
road.
that's the area that's zoned,
Yeah.
that would be zoned, the
Yeah.
industrial medium.
It's quite steep down towards the creek there, isn't it? Look at those lines.
Yeah, towards the edge of this, like the top one. Essentially, I mean, if you've been there, there's a large flat cleared area,
Right,
and that's what they currently use in the road in.
just about where that arrow points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the dark black
Yeah.
outline, that's essentially the part of the parcel that they use.
Okay, so Steph, we have it.
That the ABC support the proposed rezoning with the following comments, that the uses should not have a negative impact on environmentally sensitive areas within and adjacent to the parcel.
Sounds good. Okay, and that is
Is there a name
is
for the
that
parcel?
your motion?
Oh, okay, if you,
Ours.
sure, I'll move.
Okay, Michael,
Where they have
Martin, second. All in favor? Unanimous. Great. Tick, tick, tick. Okay. On to.
Now the fun stuff.
Yeah.
David was telling me how much he was looking forward to this.
I was,
Okay.
I was quite puzzled. by it.
This is, yeah, this is,
Okay, so this is part of our review of definitions in our land use bylaw.
yeah.
So if you're in the rural zone, this doesn't apply to you because all your setbacks are the same. If you're in a RR2 or RR3 zone, all your setbacks are 7.5 meters from any lot line, so it's really straightforward. If you're in, say, the SR2 zone, which is like anywhere in Blue Water, anywhere Valhalla, Taylor Way, Seven Hills, the Loop, any of the yellow areas essentially, you'll have a 7.5 meter front lot line and rear lot line and a 3 meter side lot line. So in some ways that makes it's really straightforward. If there's one road that runs along and all the houses front the road, it's really easy. You can go, you're 25 feet back from the side and you're 10 feet in from the side. Yeah, 10 feet back, or 25 feet back from the front, 10 feet in from the sides. Where it gets tricky is when we have areas where, you know, there is no front lot line, they're all on hills, they all build into one another, and then we have to, each time somebody builds their house, we have to look at our definition and figure out, okay, this is your front lot line, and then we end up in a discussion with the person who's designed his house thinking that the front lot line is where his driveway comes in. It's the most common thing. This is how I drive into my lot, this is my front. What do you mean this is my side and this is my front? I have to reorient my house or change where it is. So, because what we say, so the front lot line is the shortest lot line common to the lot and the highway. And where there is more than one lot line common to the lot and the highway, the shortest of these lines shall be considered the front lot line. And where a lot is split by a highway, each portion of the lot shall have a front lot line. And the rear lot line then becomes the lot line or lines opposite to and most distant from the front lot line, or where the rear portion of the lot is bound by intersecting exterior side or interior lot lines, which shall be the point of such intersection. So, so I tried to put together some diagrams of showing like, okay, what are situations where this ends up being non-intuitive? So where you think that, you know, I should think I know where my front lot line is, but it isn't. So, so on page 37, that's the first one where you may front what's a main road, and you may have beside you like an undeveloped road right of way. So we have many of them, especially older subdivisions, like with subdivisions from the 1910s or 1930s, where they would essentially make a grid pattern. And some of the roads just were never built. So they just exist, these road right of ways. But so we would say that's the highway, because of how we define highway as a, let me tell you what a highway is. So a highway is the surveyed right of way for a road,
Now,
and includes access routes and bare land strata plans.
the terminology sort of
Yeah.
is jarring. We should just call them collector roads or major roads or something.
Right, because highway, you think, well, we don't have any highways on Bowen, we're good.
No, that's like Highway 99
Yeah.
or the Trans-Canada, that we have nothing like that here. We never will have, don't want anything like that. But
Yeah, some of that comes from even the, like subdivision regulations in BC, is that like, you know, every lot needs to have access to a highway. And so a highway is the public road system, or the highways.
Right.
Yeah.
Building code has those
Yeah.
references as
And
well.
the Highway Traffic Act, it's just any road.
Yeah, any road is a highway.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So if I understand the first diagram,
Yeah.
this actually one does help a lot, Dana, thanks. Like the owner of lot one, I'm sure thinks that their front is what you call, is on the main
Yeah.
road.
Yeah.
That's probably how they drive into their lot and
Yeah.
the rest of that. But the other one is the lot line against the undeveloped road right of way is shorter, so that's
Yeah.
why you deem it,
Yeah.
So why do you do that? Yeah.
that's just the way the
That's
definition.
that's what we are. That's,
Everybody else did.
I don't know, everybody does. Like, we were trying to look through, like, oh, is there one, I was trying to look through, is there one that I would pick that's better? And
Well,
I don't know that there's, other than some of them have, you know, like it needs to be a line that's longer than a certain distance, which works well. Like I didn't show one here, but we have ones where the road essentially is a series of line segments all the way across the front. Like there's a curving road that fronts and then we have to go and look at them and go, okay, this is the shortest. This is the shortest one, so this is your front and all the rest of it is side.
And the reason this is an issue is because the setbacks from a side lot line are much shorter
Yeah.
than
So in this case, like,
Is that right?
yeah, so in this example
How
one,
much shorter are they?
so it's really 3 and 7.5. meters, so it's 25 feet and 10 feet.
But on small lots, that is.
Yeah.
If
Like
you
if you're
have
a lot and-
150-foot lot by 50 feet,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that's a big
Yeah.
difference. You can
Yeah.
have
Does the municipality tax property on their frontage and half the depth?
No.
So that doesn't come into play?
It doesn't come in, no, I mean, I don't know how BC assessment does it, but we tax on BC assessed values.
Okay, I know in Vancouver, the tax base used to be on your frontage.
Used to be.
And a portion of your depth. And people who had corner lots would pick the narrowest piece to be frontage. If they were on two streets,
Yeah,
and they had a lot that was like this, they said, well, this is my frontage, even though they
right,
built their house facing this way.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was example one, and then example two
Yeah, I see that's.
is again, this one is not quite common, and like I said, sometimes you end up, right, I've done it here like a rectangle with a cut, but sometimes you'd see it with just lots of things. But here again, we go, okay, this is your shortest front, right, it's this little piece, and then you end up with this rear lot and this sort of diagonal. And in that case, it probably works to their benefit, because they get a little bit of a front and a little bit of a rear and sides. And then, but then it would be the neighbors, it'll be the neighbors sort of below here who haven't drawn in, who feel like this is their rear lot line and the people should be 25 feet from my lot line. And instead they can be 10 feet, they can be really close if they want it to be. So it just gets
So-
odd.
The rear is always parallel to the front lot line?
It's the most distant. So
The most distant, but you've just got a
Yeah.
point in example
So,
two,
let
there's
me
no
read it.
actual line.
means a lot line or lines opposite to and most distant from the front, or where the rear portion of the lot is bounded by intersecting exterior side or interior lot lines. It should be the point of such intersection.
Just that, okay, just that point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
This is sort of, I mean, this is foreign to me, and it's very confusing. And the other thing that I'm most concerned about, you know, from a planning
Yeah.
point for Bowen, is our streetscapes.
Right.
And the character of our streets. And what we've got here is we've got a series of rules which create side yards and front yards and rear yards, really not relating to the streets that they face,
Yeah,
where they're addressed from, or anything else.
yeah.
It's a very confusing system. And why wouldn't we, and let me make a suggestion. We go as, well, we do either one of
Example
these.
one?
Yeah, I mean, this is the main road. And this is an undeveloped, but maybe a future developed. Why wouldn't this be, in all cases, the front yard? So you have a setback, you may hit some trees and stuff, but you're not building up right against the main road. And then this would be the rear, and this would be a side. And if this is on a right-of-way, that might also be a front yard facing a street,
Yeah.
a future street.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's typically,
The problem is, how do you define that? I think.
oh, easily, if you have front yards off of, that face streets.
So off of
So,
highway, any,
so example two has one street on two sides, so which one would you say is the front?
Okay, let's go back, okay? I would say, this is the main road. You actually have front in that whole area. The whole thing. You have to set back for that. This becomes a side. Well, this could become a rear, I guess.
Yeah, except,
And that becomes a.
I know when I was in Kitimat, we treated corner lots, we would say, if you're on a corner, you've got two fronts, and then we would say, if you're on a corner lot, you don't have a rear, you have two sides. And that was essentially the balance, was like, you have to be back from the road, but you get to go closer, you don't have to be back from the rear as well, so you don't get pinched on both sides.
so you don't, the whole distinction between front and rear side is really irrelevant, really the issue.
Yeah,
is
that's
whether
kind of it, a lot of
lot
it.
The front
line
is the problem.
is on a road.
Yeah.
And
But some lots don't have access to a road.
I
That's,
saw
Steph, do you wanna go down to
examples
number
of
three?
Yeah.
But in terms of
Yeah.
street front, Dennis is concerned if they're not on a road.
Would it be the shortest property line closest to a main road? Would that make sense?
I think
this one?
whether the
Or
property
adjacent.
line
I know.
is long or short doesn't matter.
But so-
Any property line adjacent to a road,
Corner lots, or what about lots that have a road in the back and a road in the front?
they would have two fronts. They go from road to road, there'd be two front
But I think-
setbacks. I mean, the key is, I mean, that's gonna be a fairly large lot. I don't know any roads that, on Bowen that are that close.
Eagle Cliff Road,
Yeah.
and
Well,
lower, old Eagle Cliff Road,
exactly.
are houses in between.
Right there, yeah.
Okay,
And
now,
all those roads off Eagle Cliff, because like Cleater and all the ones that
Yeah.
dive down, you end up with the
well,
front back.
and there's a solution for that too, and that is, you know, that's an existing developed community. And when you have an existing developed community and you have a vacant lot in the middle and people have built up to a certain standard, you can take the average of the distance setback, whatever it is. So it fits into that community. It doesn't, you know, create a hardship on that property.
The whole intent here is it not just to make sure that the house isn't built right within 10 feet of the main road. You want a setback.
Yes.
So in all these cases, unless you have something sort of really unusual, it seems to me that common sense would you should be able to look at a house and say, well, this is your front, you have to be 25 feet back, that's the main road. Doesn't matter what, you know,
But what
that's
Dennis is saying is, doesn't matter whether it's main road or any road, any road, you have to have a
25
front
feet.
yard setback. Yeah. So the first example where you've got two roads, they're gonna be back from both of them, but then the idea, that makes it a corner lot, so you don't penalize them with the backyard
Yeah,
one as well,
yeah.
which is nice.
I don't have to figure out, I don't look at that again, see how we did it, because KidMap is like planned, it's like grid, and it's really straightforward.
Yeah.
Whereas then you don't end up with somebody who, just because they get like two little front lot lines, now they don't have, or something.
I can
Like,
think of a lot on Millmore and Lenora where they would no longer be able to build anything because they would have 7.5 on two sides.
Well, that is an existing
Yeah.
condition, and you would stand by the rules that that area was developed,
Grandfather.
basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It match the neighborhood.
that's a very key thing, because we do have some old lots and development that,
So any new subdivision would go through a process of actually defining what is front lot line.
yeah, that when they lay it out. And we want to make sure that, let me get you up the diagram. When you think of something like a major development that's occurring, and you have a road, let's say, that goes through here, and this is all front lot, but you may have an area here that where you put in, that you take a internal road, and I'm thinking of the sort of clustered housing idea, where you might have, you know, this would be a road, but this would be a development with, you know, with small lots along there. This would be set back, the full setback from the road. This would be a front yard setback all along there, all along this road on both sides. But you can go into and create a subdivision that saves open space and does all those kinds of things. And that would be approved at the planning process. And you can set whatever setbacks you want on that.
Daniel, can the municipality actually or can a person divide a lot off as example 3 without access to the road?
yeah. So
And
like
if
on,
it's strata?
so you can, in a subdivision, you can create one lot that has access over a shared easement. So like on, like Rivendell Drive at the top of Kate's Hill, there's a few lots in there that don't actually touch Rivendell Drive. They're like the driveway goes across, and same actually on Seaview as well, goes up, and
Yeah.
above it is actually
And
the
they're
road.
tiny, they're like 30 feet by 100 feet.
Yeah.
So-
There's actually one for sale right at the northern part of Blue Water, and the price is very low,
Yeah,
because you're gonna, if you buy it, you're gonna have to
right, you get access over
get
it.
an easement to pay
Yeah.
for it.
Well, you buy the lot with no access.
Well, you
You have an easement.
probably cover yourself somehow beforehand, but yeah, right now it has no access, it's just a lot that's,
Oh, that's one that was the water lot?
yeah,
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 yeah, that's a weird one.
yeah.
But yeah, but in other words, yeah, in a subdivision, you can create lots that don't have access. You can create one that's access over, over another lot.
Well, do we want to allow new lots to be created that way? I don't think so.
But there are probably
That's
some
not,
physical situations
Yeah.
where there's no other way.
Well, you would get, if they're created, then they would have to come with an easement for a
Yeah.
private road.
Yeah, so a shared driveway, yeah.
Well, okay, now shared driveway, what exactly is that? To me, that's not a platted right-of-way that is
And there's actually,
with access.
like lots.
I could think of
There's
one
lots of
exactly.
shared driveways on board, because even, we'll have lots that get created like this, right? And it all
Yeah.
looks nice, but in fact, it's just like, you know, this would be really steep, so instead, the neighbors at some point will have got together and they'll put a driveway in that goes like this,
Yeah.
right? And so in that case, you know, they'll actually have fronts, but none of them actually use it, right? There's just one driveway that accesses a whole bunch of lots, and they all have a shared, and it's like, there'll be a right of way that's registered on title, and they've all got it shared. So even though they
Okay.
actually have legal access that's down this cliff, and then they
Okay.
have physical access that
Okay,
comes
so
up.
it is a right-of-way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
As long as it's a right-of-way.
yeah, it's a right of way
And
that's
not
surveyed.
just a shared driveway.
Yeah,
That's, I guess, the difference in terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, the only municipality that seems to do it significantly differently than, I know both Denman and Salt Spring Island get around your notch problem by saying it's gotta be
Yeah.
greater than 20 meters.
yeah.
That's an attractive idea. But
Yeah, I was surprised going through, because I thought, you know, this is our normal list of like comparables, and then a lot of them have similar, you know, they got weird lots and stuff, right? Because it's very different, like in a city, they'll end up with different definitions, because they're basing it on, you know, Vancouver's like, you got a 30 by 120 foot lot, this is how you're gonna define it.
And what, the categories exterior side and
Yep.
interior side, I couldn't figure out what that
Sure.
meant.
So,
Is it important? Do you know?
it's almost never relevant in our zoning, but I think there's a couple places where it comes up,
Can I
and
just
so.
ignore this information?
I think we all want to know.
Exterior lot line is a lot line or lines not being the front or rear and common to the lot and a highway. And interior means any lot line that is not front, exterior, side, or rear. So in the case where they had a short line that was common to the highway and the long line that was common to the main road, that would be the exterior side lot
Oh, I
line,
see.
and the others would be
Oh, I see.
interior.
But the way Dennis is deciding, or
Yeah.
proposing, is there's no such thing anymore, because
Yeah.
anything is, yeah,
Yeah, so essentially we would say, yeah, instead of exterior, we would just have front,
front, yeah,
side, and rear.
yeah.
Does that?
Yeah, it
clean
does,
up
I mean,
things?
yeah, and what I might then do is I'll have, you know, test our planning tech, maybe look at some of the neighborhoods, so look at
Right.
the loop, look at Miller, look at
Yeah.
Blue Water, and say, okay, what would it look like if instead we said this?
Well, no, I mean, the
Yeah.
issue is with that, if we refine these definitions, is we also put in a piece in existing subdivisions. You know, because you would want, develop, if something is developed to different standards, you know,
Yeah.
even before the municipality, whatever, you follow basically what is in there. You know, the setbacks and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, for that subdivision or for the properties which are adjacent.
So something similar to, like, we have a setback to the sea that's based on the average of the neighbors.
Yeah,
You're saying
exactly.
something like that.
Perfect, yeah, that's exactly it.
Can we summarize these? Summarize for.
So say the APC recommends that front lot line be defined as any lot line common to the road, highway.
Adjacent to the road,
Because that addresses the issue, right? Which is that any house built adjacent to a highway be a certain amount back.
Yeah.
And was there something about subdivision?
And then that, and the APC recommends a provision for existing neighborhoods to use the average of the neighboring lots to determine the setback.
Daniel, that's a good question. Is Dennis was, when he was drawing this clustered piece up here, I mean, if some developer is putting together
Yeah.
some proposal, can they have a different front yard if they want to make it smaller because they want everybody clustered?
Yeah, so
around?
like Grafton is smaller
Okay, yes.
in some parts. So on the north side of the road, it's more like an SR2 development as big as normal setbacks.
Yeah.
On the south side, some of the areas have quite smaller setbacks. The other thing, one of the things that we need to fix in our land use bylaw is we have this provision that says no building shall be sited within 4.6 meters of any lot line that abuts a highway, except in the BC1 and BC2 zones. So it says you have to be 4.6 meters back from a road, except in the village commercial zones.
I was just going to
So-
say, you have the place just below Bowen Court, which
Right.
clearly none of
Yeah.
us set back.
So what we have done in recent ones is we've gone in and put in the zones, which is what our lawyer said we have to do, is put in, despite section 3.30, which is this one. This is the front lot line. So that's what Grafton has, that's what Stuncoat House has.
Okay.
We still run into problems with it occasionally with other zones. So that's the other one that does play into this, is that, you know, when we say in the SR2 of your side, you still have to be 4.6 right now.
So that road that curves up into that development
Yeah.
below Bowen Court, is that a
That's a municipal
driveway or
road.
is that a highway?
So it's a municipal road
So it's a highway.
on two sides of it, and on one side, it's an easement that goes to Bowen Court.
Okay.
So the side that comes
Yeah,
off the
I know what
parking
you're
lot is the Bowen Court driveway, and then, yeah, but the other two pieces of it are municipal road. Yeah,
saying. Clearly it's exceptional, but
yes.
good.
Okay. What do we have, Steph?
The ABC recommend revising lot line definitions in the Hawaii municipality land use bylaw number 57, 2002, that front lot line be any lot line adjacent to the highway, and provision for existing neighborhoods use the average of the neighboring lots to determine setback distance,
Sure.
Great
Good.
solution.
Awesome.
Yeah, the only thing I'd suggest, this is really anal, but you should say front lot lines,
Yes.
because
Mhm, because you're saying all of them.
we've talked about the fact that they're,
I love that.
Okay, do I have a motion? David? Second? Martin? Okay. All in favor?
this is hilarious, only three
Okay,
voting.
unanimous.
So once it's been moved to second,
Four voting members.
oh, sorry. No, but no, chair only votes in the event of a tie.
No, chair votes.
Chair
for
votes.
example.
Oh, sorry, Dan.
I don't,
Not like the mayor.
Fair votes.
Fair votes.
Fair votes, yeah.
It's just-
Yeah.
Only David Hawking doesn't vote.
but you can talk, you just can't vote.
You're allowed to vote on fair tie. It just
So
is.
why, because this is a commission?
It's in the local government act, like it's an ABC and council liaison.
It's the same with
I
the
think-
water committees,
Yeah.
Allison, all those committees she's on, she
They're
can't
not
vote any of
voting.
them.
Okay.
The mayor can vote, and design panel. Mayor
Yeah.
can vote on that either.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they need it.
Can I move to adjourn?
Oh,
Okay.
you want to talk about this all night?
Okay. Do we have a second? Martin, okay. All in favor?
Well, that's,
Okay, adjourned in record time.